A warm welcome, the Italian Navbar. In this video I will show you how to code the responsive navbar in React.js. I started creating one by myself, but then I thought, why not to clone the Dribbble Navbar using React and CSS? It would be a great showcase. And here we are, this is the Dribbble Responsive Navbar Clone we will code together. I tried to style this as close as possible to the original one. It's missing just the font family they use, it's a paid one. Why spend money when we have available a lot of them for free? Code this with me till the end, I'm sure you will learn a lot. You will learn how to make a responsive navbar using the use media query hook from React Responsive Library, React State to toggle the mobile menu, CSS Reset, Flexbox, pseudo classes, and much more. If you like this type of content, please hit the like button, share this video and subscribe to my channel. Enough said, let's go straight into the code. As we usually do, let's start completely from scratch and create together a brand new React.js application. So open your terminal and type the command npx create React app, and then let's call this project Dribbble Navbar. Press enter and let's wait for all the dependency to be installed. Let's now navigate inside the newly created folder. And before to open this project in IDE, let's install the two libraries that we will need for this tutorial. So type the command npm install React icons and React responsive. Press enter and again let's wait a bit for them to be installed. We can now finally open this project inside our editor of choice. I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code. So for me it's code. If you already watched some of my previous tutorials, you know that I always start from deleting all the files and boilerplate code that I don't need. So open the source folder and let's start deleting this app.css. Bye and go to the trash. Then app.test.js, then logo.svg, and then setup.tests.js. Well, we can now navigate inside app.js file, and let's get rid of these two imports at the top. And then let's delete all this boilerplate code that is returned by the function app component. And instead, let's return a component that we don't have yet. So navbar. We can now start structuring the folder inside our project. So let's create a new folder inside the source directory. So new folder, and we can call this components. Then inside, let's create again a new folder, and let's call it this navbar. And finally, inside the navbar folder, let's create a new file and let's simply call this navbar.js. This file, for now, will simply export default function navbar, and let's return, for a sake of simplicity, a simple div with inside the paragraph tag saying I am the navbar. So when we will start our development server for the first time, if we see this text inside our DOM, we will be sure that our navbar component is correctly loaded by our app function right here. So now let's go back to the components folder and let's create a new file, index.js, and the only goal of this file is to handle the import and export from this components folder to the other file in our React.js application. So let's import navbar from same folder, navbar folder, navbar.js file, and then let's export and named export this navbar component we have just imported. Now, this folder structure may seem a little bit overwhelming for this tutorial in which we have just a single component. But try to imagine, to put yourself in the scenario in which you have a more complex project composed by a lot of components. Maybe you will have an hero section with an hero folder. You will have a footer folder containing all the files, CSS and images related to the footer components. Thanks to this structure, you will have a more clean import and export. So now that our folder structure is completed, we can now navigate back to app.js file and finally import the navbar component we have just created from where? From same folder, components. Well, it's now time to test for the first time our application. So open the integrated terminal, type the command npm run start, and this will fire up a development server which will serve our application at localhost port 3000. So far so good. Well, as you can see, this text confirms that our navbar component is correctly loaded inside our DOM. So we can now move further, and the next thing I usually do, as you can see, there is this small gap from the top left corner, and I am the navbar, but I didn't pass any style to this component. This means that we need to apply some CSS Reset Code. So what I do is to navigate to meyerweb.com/eric/tools/css/reset, and this is the personal blog of Eric Meyer, in which he's shown the code he used for CSS Reset. And I think this is the most complete code you can find online for CSS Reset, and this is what I always use for my projects. As you can see and read from Eric Meyer blog, I will leave the link in the description down below, Reset Style Sheet needs to reduce browser inconsistency in things like default light nights, margins, font size of headings, and so on. So let's simply copy this code, close this tab, navigate back to our editor, and inside index.css, let's select everything, delete, and now we can paste this CSS Reset Code. As you can see now, I am the navbar moved on the top, and no padding neither margin are applied. Well, what we can do before to close this index.css file is to navigate on the top, where the HTML body tag are defined, and apply the font family, and we will choose the Arial Helvetica Sans Serif. Because, as I said in the intro, at Dribbble they use the paid font, but has no sense to pay for to have a font just for a tutorial. So for us, will be good to use this one. So we can now close this index.css file, and we can start to give a look at the original navbar we will try to clone, and hope to be as close as possible to this design. And we can start by looking how this navbar behaves at different screen size. As you can see, we can call this one as mobile navbar, and then at a certain breakpoint it shows, let's call this a desktop navbar version. So what we can do is that we can go back to our code, and let's start to bring inside our navbar.js component the use media query hook, provided by the React Responsive library. So what we can do is to write const not mobile is equal to what? Use media query. Now the auto import populates this import at the top. So use media query is imported from React Responsive, and this hook accepts an object in which we can pass the query parameter where we define our breakpoint. So we can say min width column 1604 pixels. So now we have this Boolean value that will tell us when we are below this value or above this value. So what we can do is to delete this boilerplate code we don't need anymore and write some more idiomatic HTML. So let's start from another tag, and inside we can define a ternary operator and say if not mobile, so it means we are above this breakpoint value, so we are in our, let's call, desktop version of the navbar we are trying to clone, show what? Desktop navbar, and let's close this tag. Else, so if we are below this breakpoint, so we are in our mobile version of the navbar, instead show what? Mobile navbar. And let's close this tag. Now if I save, naturally the terminal starts yelling at me because these two components are not defined. So let's just define quickly them with some boilerplate code again. So we have a function desktop navbar, and for now let's simply return what? A div HTML tag with a paragraph inside saying hello, I am the desktop version, and let's save it. Now what we can do? We can copy this function component, paste down, and rename it mobile navbar, and just return a paragraph saying hello, I am the mobile version. Let's save, move back to our browser, and as you can see, since now we are above the breakpoint we defined, the desktop version is showing inside our browser. So hello, I am the desktop version. If I start to resize this window, look what happened when we reach the breakpoint we defined. Hello, I am the mobile version. Look, with this a little bit of magic, thanks to the use media query hook, we already have a very bare-bone responsive navbar, because this is responsive. Look, it's responding to the different sizes of our browser window. Cool, so far so good. Well, we can start now moving forward, and let's think on what we need to start coding this desktop version of the navbar. So let's go back to Dribbble website, open the developer tools, so we can now start inspect this desktop version of the navbar. As you can see, clicking right here, it's clear that we have a main container, then we have a smaller one which contains the logo and the links item of the menu, then a small gap between this smaller container and this other one. So this means what? That we have a main container that is displaying flex in a row direction with a justify content of space between this container and this one. So we can now start creating the desktop version of our navbar. But before to start coding it, what I would like to do is to create an array of objects containing all these items that will compose the main menu of our desktop navbar and also the menu of our mobile navbar. So instead of writing them once at a time and repeating code and code and code, what we can do is simply to translate what we have right here in an array of objects and then map over it to create each individual item for both desktop and mobile. So let's go back in Visual Studio Code, and again inside the navbar folder, let's create a new file and simply call it links.js. Inside this file, let's create a new array. So const links is equal to an array of object. This object will have this key value pair, name and route. So let's start populating this array. The first element we have is inspiration, and then the route will be inspiration. We will need how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's do some copy-paste work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, so now the second one is find work, and accordingly here we have find work. Then learn the sign, then go pro. If you want to avoid this boring typing, you can grab this file from the repository, and I will leave the link in the description down below. Let's save, and at the bottom, export default links. Well, so we can close now this one and import links from same folder, links. Well, and so this part is done. The last thing before we start to design the desktop version of the Dribbble Navbar is to grab this SVG file, and we can do directly from their website. Just click on inspect, then expand this SVG tag, edit as HTML, be sure to copy everything inside, so copy, then navigate to SVG, so it's this one, and this jakearchibald.github.io/svgomg. Oh my god, I will leave the link in the description down below, and this is a useful web app that allows you to paste some SVG markup and it will give you a compressed version of it. So let's click here, paste, and here we are. We have the Dribbble SVG file, and also we have the compressed version of it. Let's click this button to download, and we can now move this image.svg inside our navbar folder. Let's rename this as logo.svg, and so we can now import this logo inside our navbar.js file. So import, let's call this logo from where? Same folder, logo.svg. Well, we can now move back on what we were doing and thinking before. So on how to style the desktop version of this navbar. let's start creating a skeleton of it. So, as I said, we have a main container, then we have a nav tag, and inside, let's create a new div component which holds our logo, and we can display the SVG logo thanks to the image tag component, just passing as a source prop the logo we have just imported. And then let's also pass the alt prop as Dribbble component. And then inside this navbar, we can now create an unordered list in which we can map over the links array of objects we created before. So to have all the individual elements of the menu. So let's type links.map. This will give us back each individual element. And let's return simply what? List item with inside the NA tag. Here let's display link.name, so this parameter. And let's pass as href property link.route. Then, you know, when we are mapping over an array, it's mandatory to pass a unique key prop to each element that is returned by the map function. And so let's simply pass link.name, since each item has a unique name. Let's save, and as you can see, the navbar is start populating. We are really a bit far from the final design, but trust the process and you will be surprised of the end result. So now that we have the logo and the main menu, what is missing is just the last part composed by the magnifier glass, the sign-in button, and I don't remember which one, and share my work button. So let's go back to our code, and after this nav, let's create a new unordered list, and inside let's pass what? So our magnified glass icons. If you remember at the beginning, we installed not only React Responsive, but also installed React icons. So let's bring some icons from this library. The first one we need is iSearch from where? React icons /hi as folder, and this stands for hero icons. So we are grabbing the magnifier glass from hero icons. So here inside this item we can have iSearch icon, and let's close this tag. Then let's pass what? Another element, and we say this sign in. And then the last one is an item with a paragraph inside, and is share my work. Now let's save, and our skeleton, our bare-bone desktop navbar, is correctly showing in the browser. So what we can do now is to start styling it and try to be as close as possible to the original one. So let's first, again, inside the navbar folder, create a new file, navbar.css, and then import this navbar.css inside our navbar.js. So this CSS style will apply to this specific component. So again, same folder and navbar.css. Well, we can now start to give some class name to all the HTML tags we have. So to start following a hierarchy order, we can start from this header HTML tag. So let's move to navbar.css and let's write header. Let's give a width of 100%. Then let's give a background of FFF, so white. And then also let's give a box shadow of inset 0 pixel, -1 pixel, 0 pixel, and as a color, hashtag F3, F3, F4. Let's save. And as you can see, this little bit of shadow is correctly showing. Now, before to move on, just to give a better feeling when we try to evaluate our work, it's better to show something below the navbar, maybe just a light gray body. So to do this, let's open again Visual Studio Code and navigate to app.js, and instead of simply returning this navbar, let's wrap it inside the div element, and then below let's return another self-closing div. Now let's pass some inline style without creating a new CSS file related to this subcomponent, and let's pass as property display flex, then flex direction column and height of 100% viewport height. Then let's style the div that will arise below the navbar. So it will, let's say, represent the bare bone of the main component of the Dribbble on page. And also to this, let's pass the style prop with an object of background, and let's pass hashtag F3, F3, F4, so just a light gray, and then let's give a flex grow of 1. Since we have this main wrapper div with a display flex and the flex direction of column, passing this flex grow 1 means to this div to take all the available space remaining under the navbar. So let's save, go back to the browser, and as you can see, we have this light gray main div representing, let's say, the main body. So now we can close this app.js and keep working on our navbar.js. We styled the header, and as I said, let's proceed in an hierarchy order. So we have now this main div wrapping everything, and let's give a class name of nav container. Then let's pass a class name to this nav as nav desktop. Then let's pass a class name to this div as desktop menu. And then we have this unordered list which contains the desktop menu buttons. And so let's give a class name of desktop menu buttons. And so we can now save and move to navbar.css and start to pass all the styles and start to pass all the CSS needed for each individual classes we just defined. So let's start with the nav container. And here we have display flex, justify content space between, margin left 24 pixel, and margin right 24 pixel. And as you can see, the space between is correctly applying. So we have this nav containing the logo and the main menu, and then we have the menu buttons on the right. Then it's the time for the nav desktop to be styled. And here we have again display flex and align item center. We can now move on this menu. So we have desktop menu. And here we have just display flex. And so we can start to style each individual items. And all of them are inside the desktop menu and are list item tag. So desktop menu and all the list item inside. We have margin left 20 pixel, padding of 10 pixel and 6 pixel, color as hashtag 6E6D7A. Then we have a font size of 14 pixel. Let me just scroll a bit. Font weight of 600. Line height of 20 pixel and cursor pointer. Now let's apply the pseudo class over to this list item. So again, desktop menu, align side, and let's apply the over pseudo class. And it's color black. What we need to do now is just to remove the a tag style. So color inherit. So it means take the color of your parent element, and in this case is li. So it's this light gray right here. And then text decoration, so the underline, none. Let's save. And well, as you can see, we have this main menu correctly working as showing in the right way. So we can now start thinking to this right part. And as you remember, we assigned them to the unordered list that wraps all of them, the class of desktop menu buttons. And again here we have a display flex property, and then aligns item center. Now again, as we did for the main menu, it's time to style all the list item inside this unordered list. So again, desktop menu buttons, and let's go inside and take the list item. Margin right of 10 pixel, margin left of 10 pixel, margin top of 20 pixel, and padding bottom of 20 pixel. Let's save. And well, they display themselves in a flex direction of row. So now what we can do is to apply some style to this sign in button and then to share my work. So to work on them, what we can do is again to point to the unordered list that wraps them. Then take the list item inside, and this time apply the pseudo class nth child. So take the child number. We want to apply some design, some CSS to this sign in. So it's the number 2, 1, 2, 3. So let's pass it to here. And then let's type color of, again, this light gray 6E6D7A, and font weight of 500. And as you can see, the style's correctly applied, and now it's time for this share my work. So now we need again to apply the pseudo class of endChild, but this time it needs to apply to the third element. But if you remember, the share my work is wrapped inside the paragraph tag, not the li. So we then move inside the paragraph. And so now what we can do, we can say color is equal to hashtag FFF, so white, and pass the background. So if you remember, it's this pinkish right here. And this is hashtag EA4C89. Then we can pass a font size of 14 pixels, a line height of 20 pixels, a font weight of 700, a padding of 10 pixels and 16 pixels, and a border radius of 8 pixels. Let's save, and as you can see, here we have our desktop version of our Dribbble clone Navbar. Well, I think we can be quite happy. The main difference is given by the different font family used, and something we can style a bit more is these glass magnified React icons. So what we can do is to go back to the navbar.js, and since we will use more React icons and they will have more or less the same style, what we can do is, to avoid to repeat always the same code, is to create a React icon style object and pass the width of 20 pixels, then a height of 20 pixels, then a color of, again, is hashtag 9E9EA7, and cursor pointer. Let's save, and now pass this object to the iSearch style property, and let's pass React icon style we have just created. Let's save, and here we have our magnifier glass and the cursor pointer correctly working. So now our desktop version is done, and we can now move to the mobile version, and so to create before a skeleton as we did for the desktop version, and then style it so to reach the desired result. So if we start to analyze the mobile version, it's quite simple. We have just a main container displaying 3 different elements: the hamburger menu, the SVG logo, and the sign in text button, and they are displayed in a flex direction of row with the justify content of space between. So what we can do is to resize our window so to hit the breakpoint and so to have the mobile version, and now we can start to code the skeleton of our mobile navbar. So let's remove this boilerplate code. Let's wrap everything in a React fragment. Then we have a nav, and inside let's bring another React icon, always from the hero icons package. In this case we need menu. And so here, let's display an menu And we can already pass the style object we created a few minutes ago. So React icon style. Then we have the logo. And we can move here and just copy and paste the logo. And then we have the paragraph tag saying sign in. Let's save and see what we have on the screen. So here is what we have on the screen. So we can now start defining some class names as we did before. So class name, this one is nav mobile. And then let's give to this paragraph a class name of menu mobile buttons, just to be consistent of our class name declaration. Done this, we can move to our navbar.css. Let's always keep an eye on the top and start applying some style. So we can start from nav mobile, and here we have display flex. Then we have justify content space between. Then we have an align item center. And look on the top, they are already correctly displaying on the browser. Then let's apply some padding of 20 pixel and 6 pixel. Margin left of 24 pixel. Margin right of 24 pixel. And we can save. And they are correctly showing as we desired. Now let's apply some style to this sign in button. And so the class name we need is menu mobile buttons. And we have a color of, again, the light gray that is hashtag 6E6D7A. Then let's add the cursor pointer and then font weight of 500. Well, I think we can be, let's move this here, we can be quite happy with the result we achieved. And now it's time to design this mobile menu button. Look, if we click right here, an overlay menu shows up, and this hamburger menu is not more an hamburger menu, but is an X. So let's start to think how we can code this overlay menu. Let's open again navbar.js, and after the nav we have a div tag. Then inside we have a form. Inside this form we have again an I search. Again, let's apply the style object we defined before. So it's, I don't remember the name, React icon style. And we can simply copy paste. And then we have the input with the placeholder of search. Then after this form we have an unordered list where we map again over the links array. So links.map, this will give us back a link from which we return what? A list item with a key prop of link.name, and then inside we have an h tag with link.name, an href prop of link.href, route. And then the last icon is, let me show you, this chevron down. And so let's move back to the top and bring I chevron, not double, but just the single version. So I chevron down. Let's move back where we were before, and let's paste this I chevron down. And again, the style we already know, so React icon style, and let's close this tag. Now we can save, and let's see what we reached so far. So as you can see, this overlay menu now is always open, and we will store the is open or not or in a React state in a while. But let's before style it, and then we will add the, let's call JavaScript behavior of opening and closing it. So it's time now, as we did before, to pass some class name to this HTML component. So let's start from the main div with the class name of simply mobile menu. And that's everything for this overlay menu. We can now save and move to navbar.css. So we can now start to point to mobile menu, and let's start by adding the position absolute, then inset 0, then let's pass a z index of 1, a background white, margin. Before we continue, let me show where we are so you will better understand what we are doing. So now, passing this inset 0, we are telling to fix itself to 0 on the top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. So it's taking all the available space. We are passing a z index of 1 and the background of white. Now, to have back what we had before and to position it properly, what we need to do is to give a position relative to our nav mobile, and then to pass a z index greater than this one. So let's just pass 2. So now, as you can see, the mobile navbar become visible again. Then let's move this menu a bit on the bottom, so far from the top. And so we have a margin top of 70 pixels. And as you can see now, it's showing right below the mobile menu. Then we can move on, passing some margin right of 10 pixels. So this part right here become visible, because if you open the Dribbble website, as you can see, we have this small part here on the right. And is this one right here. Maybe we can make a little bit more, like 14. Okay, so they are roughly the same now. Then we can pass padding of both for the top, bottom, and left, right. Then display flex, flex direction of column, and the gap between them of 20 pixels. Let's save, and well, now they are displaying in the right position. So we can now start to style this form, and as you can see, the end result will be this one. So it's time to target the mobile menu and the form inside. Here we have a background color of hashtag F3, F3, F4. Then we have a padding of 10 pixel and 16 pixel. Then we have an outline of none, a border of 1 pixel solid transparent, a border radius of 10 pixel, then a color of hashtag 0D0C22, and display again of flex, because we have the search icon and then we have the input. And if we start typing, this blackish color, this one, is applying to the text of the input. So now let's check what we have on our app. So we have the magnifier glass icon, the input, and the form that is taking this grayish color when the form or the input are not selected. So it's time now to style the input. So again, we have dot mobile menu, the form, and inside the form we have the input. So we give a background color of transparent, flex grow as we did before of 1, so take all the remaining available space, outline again none, and border, let's give a 1 pixel solid transparent, and the color again of hashtag 0D0C22. Let's save, and look, this is the result we reached so far, and this is quite good. So now let's style when this form and the input are over or selected. So we need to use, as you already know, the pseudo class on over. So let's say mobile menu, the form inside and over. And let's start with a box shadow of 0 pixel, 0 pixel, 0 pixel, 5 pixel, and then an RGBA value of red is 234, then green 76, then we have 137, and then 0.1. Then let's give a border of 1 pixel solid and again an RGBA value. This time is 234, 76, 137, and it's changing the opacity, that is 0.4. And then again let's give a background color of, again we have an RGBA value 255, 255, 255, and 0.85. So now let's see what happens if we over, look, and let's see the original one. Well, I think we can be quite happy with the result we reached. So we can now look, if we click, it doesn't keep this state as happened in the original one. So what we can do is to now target what? Mobile menu, then form again, but this time pass the pseudo class focus within. What does it mean? It means that when the child element of our form, so in this case is the input, is in a focus state, so it means we are selected it and we are ready to type something in, we want to apply some style to the form. Look what happened. Now the input is in a focus status because we clicked inside it. But if we leave the input, it's still in focus, but no style is applying to the form. So thanks to this pseudo class that say, look, if there is an element inside this form that has a focus state, applies this style. So let me just copy, paste, and now look what happened. The input has a focus state, and so the style is correctly applying to the form. So it applies if we hover, and it also applies if the input is in focus. So now the last part is to style the list item inside the unordered list. And so what we can do is dot mobile menu ul li, give a display flex, justify content of space not around but between, and align items center. Let's save, and look what happened. We have a display flex on each list item and apply the space between directive between the text and the chevron down icon. So now let's apply the style to the A tag that is inside the list item. If you remember this A tag right here. So we need to target dot mobile menu unordered list inside target list item and inside the A tag. Let's give a font size of 18 pixel, font weight of 600, line height of 28 pixel, color of 6E, 6D, 7A, and margin bottom of 16 pixel. Let's save, and good. Look, we have a style mobile menu. This is the original for a sake of comparison. And if we focus both the element, the styles apply, and here we have the mobile menu with the chevron icon. So the last part we need to do is to handle the, let's say, the behavior of this mobile menu. Look, we need to change this hamburger menu from hamburger icon to the X icon, and then we need to make this overlay menu appearing and disappearing. So we need to apply some JavaScript to it, and we need to handle the isOpen or not state of this main menu. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and inside navbar.js, what we can do now is to move back our navbar function and keep track of some style. So let's say const is open, and then isSetter set is open with an initial state, use state, auto import of false. So it means it's closed. Now we need to pass both the state and this setter to the mobile navbar. So we have the isOpen props is open, and then the set is open props equal to set is open. Now we can move up to the mobile navbar. The structure, the props we are passing, so is open and set is open. And now we can start to control the behavior. So first of all, we said that we want to change from the hamburger menu to the X icon, if it's closed or open. So again, we can have a ternary operator say is open. So if it's open, we want to show what? We want to show the X. So let's see if the auto import works. We want the HIX auto import. Let's close. Else we want, so if it's not open, we want the hamburger menu that will allow us to open it or not. So let me just copy and paste. So now let's pass also to this X icon the appropriate style, and this React icon style. And then let's pass to both of them. Let me just wrap the line. And let's pass to both of them the onClick handler. So what happens if we click this icon? So if we click the X icon, we want to change the isOpen state, and we want to set isOpen to its opposite. So not isOpen. And the same, we can apply the same onClick handler to the menu icon. Well, now the last part is missing, is to show or not in base of isOpen this entire main menu. So what we can do under the nav, so we can say if isOpen, then do something. So show the main menu, else show null. So now let me just copy this main menu and paste inside. So we can now save. We can go back to our browser and look what happened. If I click, the mobile menu is correctly showing because we are changing thanks to this onClick handler right here, its state. So we are starting as the initial state false. If we click, we set not isOpen, so the opposite of false, true. So it means isOpen, then show, and also show this X icon. If I click again, what happens? I change back the state for the opposite of true. Again, thanks to this onClick handler. And so this became false. And so it's showing what? Thanks to our ternary operator, null. Well, I think we can close this tutorial. Let me show again just a brief comparison from the original Navbar and the clone we designed together. And to not forget, this is also responsive, so we have the desktop version of it and also the mobile version of it, just as the original one has. Desktop version of it and mobile version of it. So if you like this type of content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you are reached this point together with me, coding along with me, I'm really happy, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. The Italian Dev, bye bye.